7, and I want to welcome you all for coming, and thank you for coming, I should say. I am very grateful to LUS. Thank you all for coming tonight, especially, and thank you, the public, for coming. I appreciate the time that you're coming to basically give some information to our public, to the customers, and actually this is your company. So I applaud you for coming to get some information about your company. And Jeff has been very gracious. He's got a little presentation he's going to do for you, and he will go ahead and go through that presentation. And I'm going to let you introduce all your staff that's here tonight.
About half the room.
They get introduced. And then if there's any, I do have some blue cards that were filled out, so if you have a question, I'll probably call you up from there. But again, if there's anything that comes up after you've spoken, of course, we're here till 7:30, so I'll give you a chance to again, kind of get more feedback after that. So again, thank you so much for coming, and I'm going to turn it right over to Jeff.
All right, thank you. To introduce myself, my name is Jeff Stewart, Interim Director of Utilities. I want to echo what Ms. Cook said. Thank you for coming, showing interest in what we do. We seem to have made headlines lately, and so why not stay in the headlines, but for really good reasons. And so what I want to do is kind of give a brief overview of LUS. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we do every day, and some of it's not all that exciting. I love it, but you know, it may not be exciting to you, but I know there's some big topics that you would like to hear about, some big projects we have upcoming. There are ideas that you may want to offer. There's feedback for us to receive. I want all that to happen tonight and in the upcoming town halls that we have. This is a first for us, at least in the time that I've been employed with LUS. I've been here 17 and a half years, and I don't remember or recall us doing one like this. We've had smaller settings, smaller groups at times, but this is just open to the public. We're going to do this to start out with all the LPUA members, extended out to all the council members. So my goal, by hopefully not too long from now, is to have 9 of these done. If it is successful, I would like to continue this into 2020 with the then City Council. And so there would be 5 City Council members, and we would like to do town halls, and it just constantly engage with customers, you know, hear what you have to say. You know, we have ways of finding things out. We have ways of getting your input, but doing it face-to-face, doing it in a setting where it's comfortable for everybody, having a ton of LUS staff here ready to answer questions and provide feedback and give all the thoughts that they have on the topics that are interesting to you. That's what we want. And so this is a first for us, but it won't be a last for us. We already have another town hall scheduled in February. I hope to schedule 3 more very soon. And then ultimately, like I said, go to the other 4, because all 9 districts have LUS customers. You know, they do represent LUS customers. So we want to give everybody a chance to come out and meet us, put faces to LUS, put faces to each department or division within our group. And just so you know that when you call a certain place or you email somebody, this is who we are. You know, we're part of this town. You know, we go to church here, and our kids go to school here, and we shop here, and we do all these things here. We're part of this community just like everybody else. You know, we have 460 employees within the utilities department, and every one of them, I can guarantee they're committed to providing the best service that we can. What we want to do tonight in upcoming meetings is open up kind of how we do, what we do, why we do, and so you know. And then if you, like I said, if you have suggestions, if you want to ask questions, feel free to do it. I want to treat this as much of a town hall setting as we can, informal as we need it to be, or formal as we need it to be. One important note, it's not included in this presentation, it probably will be in the future, is that we've set up an email account at LUS for any questions that you may have. If you think of something tomorrow, the weekend, during the Super Bowl, I know the Saints aren't able to play this year, but if you think of something between now and whenever, and you want to email LUS with some questions, hey, what about this? How do y'all do this? The email address is townhall@lus.org. Very simple. Hopefully we can commit it to memory. Townhall@lus.org. And when you send an email, we will compile it over the course of a few days. We won't check it every minute, every hour, but we will compile the questions. We will derive our answers, provide answers to you, and then we will respond. That's the goal of this. So the town hall, we're going to have face-to-face today, but we want to continue the engagement beyond today. And so we're going to set up that email account, and if something needs to change in the future, we'll change it, but that's how we're going to start it for now. You had a question, go ahead.
Just wondered if you were going to put the questions and answers on your webpage.
If we can capture them, we got a few people taking notes. We can. I know Ms. Cook has a list of the questions. We'll certainly,
It gives it a wider audience
right.
opportunity to see.
Check in later.
Same question too for smaller regional
Right.
meetings. It doesn't get the same. But anyway.
Right. Yeah, no, we can do that. It helps for consistency purposes too. I want to give you the same answers I give somebody the next time. And so, because that's, I should be giving you the truth. And so the truth should be consistent throughout. So it's a good suggestion, and we'll certainly do it. A lot of the information that we do, we're going to talk about tonight, and the things that we do are located on our website. I need to give you an opinion here. Our website is not the greatest. People typically go to it to pay their bill and kind of move on, right? And that's fine. That's a very useful tool. But navigation of the website is kind of clunky. We are looking to update and modernize our website. But in the meantime, for now, there's a latest news, type section. We have all of our engineering reports, our last IRP. I think a lot of our presentations that we make to either LPOA or council are on there. It's for your viewing and your research and review, and if you have questions that follow up from it, again, townhall@lus.org, and we will address those. But anyway, I know I've kind of introed it here. We have a lot of LUS staff. I don't know if you want to take time to introduce everybody now or wait till maybe later. All right, so we'll start over on this side, because I see 2 over here, 3 over here. We'll start over here, just name and what your role is at LUS. Greg?
Greg Lafayette, Electric Operations Manager. Hunter Boudreaux, Chief Electrical Engineer.
Karen? Oh,
Karen, Employee Utility Marketing Supervisor.
Allison?
Allison Allen, Community Analyst.
And start with James.
Morana, D&D Foreman for the service section.
Shane Thomas, Street Lights and Security Lights.
John Wilson, Power Plant Superintendent.
Brian Guidry, Civil Engineering, Water and Sewer.
Antonio O'Connor, Customer Support Services Manager.
Craig Delatroy, Water Wastewater Manager.
Harrison, Utilities Conservation.
Billy Arms, Faithful. Glenn Montill, Tree Trimming Supervisor.
Tyler, Energy Control, Training Compliance Coordinator.
Tracy Mouton, Environmental Compliance Manager. Karen Fry, Environmental Compliance Supervisor, Pre-Treatment.
David DeMuro, Network Engineering and IT Supervisor. Jason Miller, Education.
And that's it. Just know that you see a good number of people here. They're all volunteering their time. I need to give them credit for showing up and wanting to do this. I made a presentation in November to LPOA, and at the time I said, we were proposing these town halls. I would not have proposed it if we did not have full buy-in from the staff. And you see here today, and in future meetings, we'll have a lot of participation in that. And that just tells you, hopefully it tells you, the dedication that we have, what our goals are. We want to make this work. We want to have this customer engagement opportunity in order to provide you, as Ms. Cook said, this is your utility. We just work here, and so we want to make sure that we're doing the right things the right way with your feedback, and then ultimately, we'll have a happy little utility. What I want to do, it's going to be very awkward for me to do this, but I'm going to just roll through these slides, even though they're behind me. Next meeting, I'll be better prepared. This is going to be very similar to what I presented in November to LPOA. If it's not posted on our website now, it will be soon. But if you have any questions or whatever, I can email this at the end. Again, send it to townhall@lus.org, probably the best way to do this. And so what I want to do, and I was asked to stay in between these microphones. Typically, I would be up walking around, high-fiving people, but I'm going to sit here and be calm. This is our mission statement. What it boils down to is providing the best quality service to our customers. And that takes about 1,000 different actions throughout each day, to be honest with you. There's a lot of things that go on. You know, LUS is an electric, water, and sewer service provider. LUS Fiber is now a different department, and so that's not a part of our umbrella anymore. Thank you for that. That was really, really good. Makes it set the mood. But what our goal is to provide the top quality service. And what does that mean? It means, you know, affordability, right? I mean, I've spoken to Ms. Cook about this before, but we did some research years ago and found out that 19% of our customers are at or below the poverty level. And so decisions we make have to take into account affordability. We don't like to always take the risk. We don't always like to, you know, spend money when there are better options available. Reliability. There's a couple of slides in here about electric reliability. I can talk about our water quality all day and sewer the same. We have to make sure that we provide the same type of service consistently throughout our service territory. That's what you expect, and that's okay, because that's what we want to provide. And then all of that has to be bundled into customer service. If we're not good after the fact, we're not good before. And so we want to make sure that we're there, we're available. You know, these types of events, we have 2 customer service locations, we have phone calls, emails, everything that you can think of that will contact us to make sure that we're providing the best possible service to you. You have questions about your bill, you have questions about your service, you know, if you want to hook up a service, all these different things, we're able to provide that with a local flavor and be responsive. We want to make sure that we respond as quickly as we can and the most adequately that we can. I'm going to go slow here. All right, revenue. So last fiscal year that we completed, at least that went through the audit, $227 million. Our budget's somewhere around $240 million. We certainly don't spend all of that budget, but just for perspective purposes, 365 days in a year. And if we would spend all $240 million of our budget, we're spending over $600,000 a day. Like I said, a lot of things happen at LUS, and it's all for the benefit of the customer. Our O&M budget is, I would say, scrutinized by our LPUA and council, and rightfully so. We have to justify our expenses, and we do so. But it is a big business. It's one of the biggest businesses in the area, and we have to treat it like a business, but we also fall under the umbrella of local government. We fall under the governance of LPUA. We're overseen and administered by our mayor-president. But we are treating this, we treat the customers as we should, like you own us, and you do. ILOT contributions, you know, that's something that a lot of people, I think, may know about and appreciate it, but the magnitude of it, you know, $23 million is what LUS contributes to the city's general fund. That's a big number. It's a big percentage of the city budget. And I don't know those percentages offhand, so please do not ask that. Send it to townhall@lus.org. But you know, we're a big part of this city. We're a big part of this community, and it shows through these contributions, which helps to support all the city functions. You know, police, fire, parks and rec, and so forth. Electric system. We have 2 generation sites here in town. One's on Reno Road, north of the Interstate University, and the other one's on Beaupre and Commission, kind of off Pinhook, between Pinhook and Thruway. Hargis A-Bears on the south side, TJ Lobby's on the north side. And fun fact, if y'all remember, Greg introduced himself as Greg Lobby. We named the power plant after his father, TJ Lobby. So LUS has a tradition of a lot of family members working here. I think you said since 1956, a Lobby has been working at LUS. And that's the type of atmosphere that we work in, and it's the type of employees that we have, very dedicated to the service. We also have a hydro contract with the federal government. There's hydro dams in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. And because we're a public power agency, we have access to purchase hydro. We've been doing that for 45 years at least, maybe something like that. We just renewed again for 15 years. And so very beneficial to us. It provides a good service, good purpose. And we have the Rotamaker plant. I'm sure I'm going to get questions about this later. This is our jointly owned plant in Boyce, Louisiana. It's coal-fired, burning Powder River Basin coal. Some stats, our peak with the reserves, the last time we calculated was 487 megawatts. So good size, the biggest municipal in the state of Louisiana. Entergy's not a municipal. They would New Orleans is not a municipal. They would be bigger than us. Baton Rouge is not a municipal. They're served by a investor-owned private. But we are the largest municipal utility in the state. And it goes a long way, and we try to set a good example. 18 substations, 47 miles of transmission line, 1,000 miles of distribution line. And here's something that people don't realize, all that I didn't really a few years ago, but over half of our distribution system is underground. I'm sure we get questions in one of these town halls, why don't y'all bury lines? Well, we bury all the new ones, but some of the old ones are in places where it would be really cost prohibitive to put them underground. There's also other structures under the ground. We have water and sewer. There's gas lines. There's other utilities in the area, and so it's case by case. The utility system was constructed the way it was, and that's how we operate and maintain it. To take any type of action and convert underground would be a cost. It'd be an additional cost in what our day-to-day operations are. But over 50% of our distribution system is underground, and you could see, drive through town, you'll see overhead and underground. Renewables. January 1st, we actually our contract began. 20% of our energy in Lafayette now is backed up by renewable energy credits. So in a sense, 20% of our energy is renewable at this point. Credited. And the renewable energy credits is kind of like an accounting system. I'm simplifying this a lot, but it's kind of an accounting system, an auditing system, where it says that a megawatt produced from a renewable resource is now, that megawatt is credited to the Lafayette Energy. And so we announced that, I think, in August. It took effect January 1st. And so that was a big step for us. One of the things that we always consider when making these actions is I don't want to increase my cost. And this purchase power agreement we were able to do it without increasing our budget. Our budget remained the way it was, and it was a good opportunity for us to do it. It's something new for us, to be honest with you, but it was the right time because the price was right. About a year and a half ago, we did a pretty extensive customer survey, and door to door, in fact. I don't know if anybody here was hounded, but we asked a series of questions, and for the most part, everybody thought renewables was a positive term. If you ask anybody here, they're going to say the same thing. But there was a threshold of what they were willing to pay for it, right? It didn't get very much above zero either, just because, like I said, 19% of our customers can barely pay their bill each month. And so what we had to do is we had to find a purchase power agreement where our costs didn't increase, and we did it. And so we took action, and we were able to enter that agreement. And so for the first 24 days of the agreement, it's worked well for us. And so we're proud of that, but we're not resting on it too. We're not saying, oh, we got 20%, we're good. It's a 2-year contract, so it's going to expire eventually. And so we're looking at other options. And later on, I'll talk about a big plan we have to kind of explore those options. And I'm sure y'all are all anticipating that one. Sadie, this is on the electric system, so this is a duration of outages. The white bars you see are the LUS averages for the different periods. 2017 and then 2018 through October. Compared to our neighbors, and again, different systems, different setups and all that, but drastically less than our neighbors' outages. So on the average outage, this is the duration. It's how long it takes us to restore your electric service. Frequency of outages. Different metric, but similar results. This is how often outages do occur, and you can see compared to our neighbors, we are the best in the area. On the water system, just a few stats I wanted to go over. What I really want to highlight is we have 1,100 miles of main line. Think about Lafayette. We're about a 55 square mile city. 1,100 miles of pipe. Really, really, really dense, but also a lot of work to do. You see the fire hydrants, 6,500 fire hydrants, and 23,400 valves. All those things require maintenance. We have a staff dedicated, several divisions dedicated to it, and it's a full-time job all the time, every day. But that's what it is. That's what it takes to get there. And so it's growing. We do, these numbers do grow each year as things happen. But it's a lot going on, but we're capable to do it. Wholesale water, if you live in the parish, pretty much you're served by LUS Water. There are a couple of exceptions. But City of Youngsville, Broussard, City of Scott all have contracts with us. Milton Water System, which serves the Milton area, wholesale water contract. Water District North, Water District South. We do not serve Karen Crow. They have their own system, but we do have an emergency contract in case there's something on either system. I think it's reciprocal. We're able to assist each other in case of emergencies. But you can see the area and amount of customers that we cover. We treat each of these as wholesale customers. We have a demarc point, and it's their system beyond it. But the effect is we're pretty much providing water to most of the parish through our system. Wastewater. Sewer's been a big topic too lately. You see, I'm adjusting my collar. I know it's coming. We have several plants in town. We have 650 miles of wastewater collection system. Again, 54 square mile service territory. We have that many miles of collection lines, 12,500 manholes, and 185 lift stations. Again, this is really to provide you with a scope of maintenance. What does it take to operate the system and maintain the system? And 460 employees, we're pretty busy doing these things. But again, it's part of the job, and we enjoy doing it. MISO, I could probably spend a week with everybody talking about MISO, not because it's interesting, no, just because it can be complicated. But what happened before MISO, and I'll set it up this way. What happened before MISO was Lafayette was responsible for Lafayette power, right? So whether it was a purchase power, whether it was our own generation, it was a coal plant, whatever it was, we were responsible. So if we had 400 megawatts, we needed 400 megawatts. We were responsible for accounting for that megawatts, making sure that it was deliverable and we had it to provide to our customers. Now we're in MISO, and MISO goes from the Gulf of Mexico into Canada, in the middle of the country. It's called the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator. And we're now part of that bigger footprint. And so MISO, it's not just Lafayette by itself and all these other utilities by itself. It's all one big balancing authority. And so what that does is it opens up a few things. Number one, open access transmission. It was always available, open access transmission, but now one operator is controlling all the transmission. It's not each utility doing it. Probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you. The most important thing to you is it gives us access to cheap, available power. We've done some sensitivities on what it would have cost us to not be in MISO, and the numbers are really high. And what you've probably noticed over the last couple of years, since 2013, so it's been over 5 years that we've been in MISO, you've seen lower fuel costs. And part of it is the gas market's down, so energy prices are down, but we have access to that energy. We have access to that energy because we're part of MISO. And so we don't have to operate a 40 or 50-year-old unit here in Lafayette if we don't have to. We have access to the cheaper availability outside of Lafayette, and it's part of the MISO grid. And so every day we get notices for the following day of what our cost is going to be, what our price is. So we know going into tomorrow if there's some different levels of sophistication to it, but we pretty much know what our price is going to be the next day because MISO has already figured out through all the different inputs from utilities how much megawatts they need, how much megawatts are required by the utilities, and how much generation needs to come online to provide it. And once they come up with all those factors, they issue dispatch notices to each utility, and we know what we're running tomorrow, we know what our price is going to be tomorrow. And so we're actually buying 100% of our energy through MISO. Now, there are ways to get around it with our renewable contract. There are ways to get around that, but it's a buy and it's a sale market. So whether we generate or not, we're still getting the energy from MISO. Again, I said I could spend a week talking to you about it because it is kind of a complicated topic, but I want you to take this away. We've saved millions of dollars by joining MISO in 2013 because it gives us access to cheap power, and those savings have been passed on to you in your bill, in your fuel cost. And so we're able to experience lower fuel costs because of our participation in MISO. And so there's a lot of words up here, a lot of things that go on. Again, you can get a copy of this presentation and read through it. And if y'all want to talk MISO another day, I'll be more than happy to confuse you more. That was a joke. I didn't hear a laugh. All right, so Moving on, smart grid. I anticipate a few questions about our smart meters too, but several years ago we undertook a pretty big project to change out our electric and water meters throughout the city. And the numbers up there, 120,000 meters change out. And what that allows us to do is we don't have to, manually read meters, right? And so we're getting real-time information, very accurate information, as real-time as we can get it. It's not every second. But what this does is it allows us to gather information. Number one, for your bill. If you want to log into your account online and look at what your consumption is, you have every right to do so. And you get that information as quickly as we can gather it and turn it back into you. It also allows us as a system to know exactly what's happening at certain locations. We have devices on the main system that gives us information about water pressures or electric current loads, whatever it needs to be. Well, if your electric meter goes dark, we know you're in an outage, right? I mean, it's just quicker information for us to know. And so we can respond to that outage before you really need to call us. You can call us anyway. We'll answer the phone. But it gives us, it allows us to respond quicker, to anticipate problems, anticipate outages even. So if I get a cluster of meters that are shown out, I can identify it as maybe a tap, a main line outage or something other than just a customer here, a customer there, a customer there. We can do some predictive type things and address the problem sooner. But more importantly, you can actually see your usage. You can set limits. So if you want to get an email and says, well, whenever I hit X number of kilowatt hours or an X dollar amount estimate, I get an email saying you've reached your limit. Something that I think Ms. Cook has taken advantage of is the water leak notifications. So if we see some unusual consumption, we'll send you a notification saying that, go check your toilet, go check your water line. We have those all the time. And you see the stats that the last few years. I mean, we've really, it's been a big benefit for a customer because, if you have a water leak, you're responsible for that water. And so we want to let you know that there's waste. And so we don't have to keep treating water that's not being used, but also you can save on your bill. So it's been a benefit. It's expanding all the time, and we're looking at even doing some further expansion on that. If you want to really get notified of anything. Whoops, I'm frozen. There we go. This is a busy slide. I won't go through it, but it's just a matter of once we install the meters, we had to do all these other systems on the back end to make sure that we can properly bill for, account for, get all the information associated with it. I may have mentioned this before in a meeting, but we're becoming an IT-driven utility. David's here; he can tell you all about it. But we still have to provide those basic services. We still have to provide clean water and reliable electricity. But we're starting to become, system-driven, and we're about to take some steps, in the future. Outage management system. Where right now we're going through a process of upgrading our outage management system. What does that mean for you? It means that we're going to evaluate options where you can be notified if you opt in. You can be notified if you have an outage at your house. I use this example. If you're off somewhere shopping or on vacation or whatever, and you have deer meat in your freezer and you have an outage at your house, you can get notified wherever you are. Have somebody go over and plug a generator in or move the meat or do whatever. That's the type of information we want to give you. We want to let you know that we know there's an outage, and then you can take whatever precautions or actions necessary in order for you to keep whatever you need. Entergy does it. I get notifications from Entergy. I'm on their system. And it's something that we probably need to do. And so we're going through that process now of upgrading our system on our end and to provide that information to you. I don't know to what extent yet, but I do want to publish some type of map for you, an outage map. We're trying to figure out, because we gather a lot of customer information. It's personal information. We do not want to publish that ever at all, never. No. But I do want to give enough information to the public, to you as a customer, to let you know that, okay, there's a big problem going on. Is there something isolated? Whatever that is, to give you information. Again, I'm on Entergy system. They do it, so why can't we? We just don't know how granular we're going to be yet. We don't know what the appearance is going to look like yet. But we want to publish that information. We want to give you access to it, whether it's behind your login on your account or whatever. We want to be able to provide that information. So as time moves on, we're going to evaluate all the latest and greatest outage management systems with all of the customer options, whatever that interface looks like. And we'll be certainly glad to provide that to our customers because it's time to do it. Customer locations, customer service locations, Pinhook, it's been there for several years. Mall Street is fairly new. Mall Street is under construction right now. The drive-through and drop box are available, but the lobby's being closed. It'll be open up within the next month or so, pending weather. But we get a lot of activity. We really get a lot of activity at our customer service locations. I think part of it's just who Lafayette is. We like to talk to people. We like to say hi. We like to go drink our coffee. And, I don't know if you meet at a customer service location, but, certainly you can go do that and see faces, right? And you see people. And our employees are really nice. They like to chat and talk it up. And so people do want to actually have conversations or see. But that typically is our more traditional customers. Our younger customers want to chat and text and never talk to a human ever. And so we're making those adjustments as well. We're looking at options. We're going to try to combine a few systems to allow a customer to interact with us with different interfaces. So you can still call in if you want. You can still come say hi. But if you're on the go and you don't feel like calling anybody, you just want to text it in, we'll be able to receive those and take action accordingly. And so those are kind of some things upcoming. I don't have a timetable on that yet. I'd hate to say, next year or whatever. But those are actively being pursued. But you can tell how much activity we have with our customers. Okay, so here's a few other things that we do. A lot of this I talked about already. So you can monitor your own consumption. What I find fascinating, and I'm pleased to say it, is our customers are getting really smart about their consumption. That's just the way it is. It started out on the electric side. I think Energy Star appliances years ago, and insulation's so much better, and windows are better, and all this other stuff. Water too. You see these low flow toilets and all these different things. That's fine. That's great. We're adapting to it, but we have the ability to maybe help you out on some of those things too, at least educate you. Free home energy audits. Garrison introduced himself earlier. I would encourage you to contact us, ask to speak to Garrison maybe, and find out what he can do. Energy audits or provide tips and guidances and whatever else that you may have. The mentioned a focus group survey earlier. They like the fact that we're local and they can come to Pinhook or Mall Street and see us. They like the fact that my cell phone number has been published, apparently. They like all that. I don't mind. That's part of it, right? Like I said, we go to school here. Our kids go to school here. We go to church here. We shop with you. That we're part of the community, so we make sure that we're accessible. Ms. Cook is available all the time. I know she typically will correspond with us when she gets customer input. That's part of who we are. It's part of what we are. It's been like that since well before I started working. It's not something that we invented recently. But we want to encourage you moving forward to engage with us. Let us know your thoughts. And tell us if we're doing something that's not quite right. We're human. Okay, current plan. So we have a capital budget, and I'm happy to announce, oh man, you are full of goodness tonight. Thank you. Last week, the State Bond Commission did hear our bond issue, and so we're going to be moving forward with our about a $70 million bond issue. What does that do for us? That gets us through several years of our capital projects. And this is mostly the standard, water, sewer, electric stuff that I'm sure everybody over here is excited about. But no, all those things go into providing that service that you expect from us. So we're going to be kicking off, that we're going to be, catching up maybe on a few projects that we've been trying to figure out how we're going to do. A new electric substation in a certain area. We're going to do our sewer plant modifications. We have some big sewer projects in the works. Those are the typical utility type projects that we have ongoing. So that's where that first line comes in. All right, LED streetlights. I'll get questions about this too. I want to start out by saying about the LED streetlight upgrade is that we are going to do something similar to what we're doing tonight when we roll that out. So I'm not going to spend many millions of dollars on a product and then say, hey, does it look good? No, we're going to do pilot neighborhoods, maybe pilot streets. Let you go out and take a look at night, figure out if that's the color, the style. You know, people have a fear sometimes of LEDs. It's that 5,000K, that blue light. We're not doing that. I'll guarantee you we're not doing that. But there are options, there are ranges, and we want to make sure that a neighborhood street light is what you want in a neighborhood. We want to make sure that a street light, a main thoroughfare, is what you want before we go out and spend any money. And so we're gonna roll this out probably in the next few months, if all goes well. A couple of streets, a couple of neighborhoods maybe, and let us hear from you. Is this what it's supposed to, you know, is this what you want? Is this what it looks like? We're not going to go too fancy. I'm going to have to maybe minimize some expectations here. We're going to replace one for one, and so if it's an arm, we're going to replace the fixture. Y'all saw Jefferson Street we did about 1.5 years ago. Those were decorative lights. We replaced those one for one. We're gonna do that everywhere there's a public street light. And to give you an estimate amount, there's about 18,000 of them in the city of Lafayette, maybe probably more. 18,000 we know about. We're going to replace them one for one. And what that's going to do, it's going to go from a mercury vapor or high pressure sodium, X watt light to an LED equivalent. And our goal is to provide the same lumens on the ground, so same amount of light on the ground, but make it more appealing visually. Make it, appear safer, right? I mean, that's kind of what a lot of streetlights do, provide visibility. A lot of areas want safety as well, although the primary focus of a streetlight is street safety. But at the same time, it's going to reduce maintenance and operation cost. It's going to reduce maintenance because these fixtures are supposed to last a lot longer than the traditional streetlights. It's going to reduce operational costs because it's a lot less wattage. We're probably looking at a 40 to 50% or so. Don't hold me to it, Hunter. 40 to 50% reduction in electric usage on the fixture itself. And so it's going to be a money saver in the long run. Public Works is actually the department that owns the street lights. We operate and maintain it. Well, we're going to go ahead and initiate this street light change out, and over time have Public Works, they'll be able to reduce their budgets over time, but we need to get some type of payback on it. And so that seems to be an agreeable solution. We're able to change them out kind of in wholesale, like I don't say all at one day, but give us a year and a half, and we'll have the city changed out, or at least most of it. And then long term, it's going to provide a lot of benefit. Like I said, reduce costs, reduce electric usage. It also provides us with a lot more flexibility on monitoring the operation of the street lights. We'll know if the street light's out before you call us, which will help, hopefully, that flow. You don't have to call us as much, but again, call if you want to talk. And so that's kind of where we are on street lights. Like I said, we're going to roll out a pilot over the next few months. We want to get customer input. We're going to have a meeting or maybe two like this. It won't be by district. It'll be just kind of a citywide type thing. And once we roll out the pilot, I'll announce it at a LPOA meeting or whatever. And I'll give everybody some time to go take a look at it. And don't go look during the day. It won't give you much input, but go at night, and we'll make sure that they're accessible everywhere. I don't want to put it down a gated community or anything. Those are typically private anyway. But outage management system, I talked about that earlier. The map, the notifications, those types of things. We really want to make this modern. Our systems now are modern for our use. They may not be modern for public consumption yet, but we're going to change all that. We're going to make this actually accessible to the public. And then the online bill pay, we've got a lot of questions about this lately. That's actually in the works now. It just takes time to get us there. We're going to improve those things and allow for a more seamless payment option. Future goals. Continue what we're doing today, the customer engagement, figure out what our strategies are going to be, what the customers really want. Again, it all has to pass through the filter of low cost, high reliability, and customer service. But everything we're talking about tonight, everything that you're going to ask about, I think a lot of it can be accomplished that way. We just have to make sure that we find the right mix. I like this kind of stuff. Innovative ways for customers to talk with LUS. I mentioned the text messaging, Facebook messaging, whatever the kids these days use. Kiosks, payment kiosks. There are things out there that we're evaluating, right? I can't say we're going to have a kiosk at this location for whatever, but we're looking at it. We're going to find the best solution. We're going to roll it out. We're going to hopefully make it more convenient for you to interact with us, either pay a bill or ask a question or report a street light or do whatever you need to do. We're looking at, again, we're assessing our systems now, all of our softwares, and making, see if there's a way to compile some things, to be able to publish some things for you to view. I think the big thing's going to be the outage map, but what else can we combine? What else can we put in there? Can you submit a ticket to us, online, if you don't want to call? Again, make it more convenient for you. Like I said earlier, we're kind of an IT-driven utility now. I mean, we still have the mechanical functions of a utility. We still need that. That's what drives our business. But we're starting to evolve a little bit. The industry's evolving. We think we're evolving with it. We think we have a good handle on it. But we want to continue that. We don't want to fall behind. We don't want to be serial number one, but we don't want to be last in line either. We want to make sure all the kinks are worked out and everything is good before we launch something. And so as we start to launch products and as we start to launch services, we'll come to the public, whether LQA, City Council next year and beyond, whatever it is, and start announcing these things. We want to make sure that you're aware of what's going on. We want to make sure that you have access to what we're doing. And, one thing about our utility is, we have a number of employees who are ready for retirement, or at least retirement eligible, not ready for retirement. We have a lot of employees who are fresh out of school. Really good mix. And what that does is it keeps us all in line a little bit. We still have those things that we have to do. We have to provide these services. But these youngsters, boy, they're energetic. And they want to pump all these ideas into the utility, which is good. We need that fresh outlook. But I think the mix of our workforce, the way it is now and the way I see it kind of evolving over time, it's really going to work well for us to implement these products, these new ideas, these changes. We're going to be changing the street lights out over the next year, 2 years. We've been evaluating that since 2009 or before. It just never made financial sense for us to do so. But what's the number? How many the vendors are producing? What percentage of their market is LEDs now? 75% of all streetlights being produced now are LEDs. And so the prices come down so much that we can take these actions and we can incorporate it into our system without raising costs. It's going to be better functioning, better operation. But those are the types of things that we've been evaluating for a long time. It's just finally we're able to put action to them. All right. So I know everybody's waiting here for this one. Open IRP process. I know LQA took an action this week with a resolution to support an IRP process. What is an IRP process? Integrated Resource Plan. It is a strategic decision-making support tool. It's a lot of words to say this. We're going to take a look at the next 20 or 30 years of what our electric needs are. We're going to say, how can we meet them? What are the best options to meet those needs? We're going to apply cost to them. We're going to apply feasibility to them. We're going to do all those things. And then at the end of it, we're going to have a kind of a menu of options. How do we get there? That's how we've done it in the past. The last one was done in 2016. Before that, 2011. And I know, Mr. Walden, you had a question about are they available. I know for sure the 16 is posted on our website. I don't know about the 11. We'll have to dig that one up. But I can get you a copy of it, no matter. So what is going to be different about this time is we're going to do this. We're going through the process now of sending out an RFP to solicit proposals from any engineering firm who wants to participate. We're going to work through our purchasing group at LCG, publish however they publish the advertisement. We have a modest specification because really we're not looking for specific ideas right now. We want to make sure that we select the most competent and comprehensive firm that we can, the one that has the depth to cover all the options that we want to explore, and then ultimately provide us with an actionable study report. Once we go through that process and a firm is selected, the very first thing we're going to do is have a public meeting and say, all right, generally this is what the IRP entails. Here are some options that LUS is thinking about. What do you want us to study? And that's basically it. So right now there's no scope defined. We haven't defined any of our study options. You know, we're going to do the traditional evaluations, you know, of natural gas and other types of generation. We're going to do renewable evaluations. We're going to do purchase power agreement evaluations. But we want to hear from you, what are those options? What do you really want us to study? And we're going to study those, you know, and now I can't say you're going to have the whole, you get 30 options, but we're going to give you a couple options, whatever the most, I guess, popular or the most intriguing or whatever it is, whatever options you want us to evaluate, we're going to go through that process. If we allowed every option to be studied, it'd be 5 years and our study would be nonsense by the time we finished it. But we want to make sure that we give ourselves enough time to study what the important options are to the customers. And we'll go through all that process when we get there. But right now there's no scope, there's no options to be studied. We're in the process now of selecting a firm, and that firm will be the most qualified firm. I mean, there's no bias for or against anything. You know, it's just whatever was the best fit for Lafayette, whatever's the best evaluated fit for Lafayette. And then from there, I hope that we take action. I mean, I really want this to be a springboard to actually do something. Whether it's build a new generation, whether it's to partner with another utility, or it's to do a purchase power agreement, whatever the option is, I want us to be able to take action on it, because that's the purpose of the integrated resource plan, is to have all your evaluations done and then take action on those evaluations. And then town hall meetings. Tonight's the first one, so we're kind of busting the champagne on the ship tonight, which is good. We'll learn a lot from tonight. I hope that it's a very much a good conversation going forward until Ms. Cook kicks us out. But I do hope that this is kind of a renewed relationship with customers. I hope that we learn a lot, you know, honestly. But I hope that it's beneficial to you too. I want to be a resource for you. I want to be whatever I can be to provide education or how-tos or whatever it is. I want to be that person for you. But I also want to learn from you as well, where your thoughts are, where your questions are. And again, we're going to do our best to answer questions tonight. That's why we have a good bit of staff here. But anything that we cannot address tonight, I'll be sure to answer them in a public forum. And certainly we'll get back to you in a timely manner. So with that, thank you again for coming. Thank you for your interest. We're here to help and serve and do whatever we can to let you walk out of here in a more in a better place with LUS than you were before. So thank you.
A lot of information, very informative, and I appreciate you offering yourself as the resource. You know, definitely a lot of knowledge on everything you need to know about LUS at this point, and I appreciate you putting yourself out there. I'm great. Do I have a water leak in my house? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, you said at one of the meetings that you actually got a notification, and it actually, yeah. You don't remember that?
No, did he fix it? I have to ask my husband if he fixed that.
Well, you'd see your bill.
Works, yeah.
You'd see your bill.
Okay, I have a couple of blue cards here, and I'm just going to call your name up, or you can stand up where you are. And if you didn't sign one, that's not a problem. Again, this is just for documentation, but I'm just going to go down the list. I have, I think, Dennis Sullivan. You had a question?
Here I am.
Oh, there you are.
On my phone right now. I was just wanting to dialogue about some things, but you know, maybe the IRP process will come up for a later time.
Okay, so you're okay, right? You have nothing, okay? That was easy. Good answer there, Jeff. Kim, come on up. You had something you wanted to use?
My questions were about the IRP process as well. What would you say, I mean, I'm familiar with the general scope of what the document is all about, and I understand that it really sets up our future as a municipality. And I guess I'm leaning towards the sooner we can get to renewables, the better. But in your opinion, what are the more salient
So, first of all, the adoption of the IRP, I think it's going to be, what I've asked is that we have a member of the LPOA be a part of that process. And I don't know if you're aware of that, but y'all will talk about it, I believe. And a member of the administration, because between the elected officials, administration and council, LPOA, the people's representatives, right? And so we're going to have them part of the team, the team of, making sure that the report is on time and here's what the scope should be and all these types of things. In the process, we're going to have meetings like this to actually welcome the input. So right now, we have no set direction. It could be whatever it needs to be. Renewables, I think, will be a part of the evaluation. It has to be a part of the evaluation, and there's no doubt about that. What's going to really determine it is the cost, bottom line. Because our objectives to this is to provide a long-term solution for our all 67,000 customers. And if we can incorporate renewables, whether it's a heavy mix or a light mix or whatever it is, I want to explore those options. We want to make sure that we cover all of the available possibilities. And then whatever rolls out of it, if we can incorporate it, we will absolutely do it. I mean, there's no, they probably not going to like me when I say this, but I don't care where the electricity comes from. I really don't. I don't have a preference. I'm not married to gas or coal or sun. I just need it to be the cheapest, and I need it to be reliable. And if I can pass those two filters across any of our options, and we can implement that, then I think it's a successful IRP. And what our obligation has always been is low cost and reliable. Now, there's going to come a point in time very soon that reliable and low cost is going to include renewables across the board. I mean, it's on its way. We've seen that. I mean, and I look at California as kind of a case study, not necessarily what the norm is. And here's why I say it, and I mean, no offense to them. They have renewable portfolio standards that are extremely, up there. Well, they also have very high cost of electricity. And so to justify renewables, in let's say California where your costs are already high, you can slide a renewable in, it's actually a lesser cost. But Louisiana and Mississippi have the lowest rates in the country on average. In fact, California is probably 2.5 times what our rates are. And so for us to roll in renewables, it has to be very strategic, it has to be at the right price. And that's what I want to explore. I want to go down this path and say, is it a good idea, is it not a good idea? Because again, I don't have a preference one way or the other where our electricity comes from, for the most part. I love to have local generation all the time for a number of other reasons. But truly, I don't have I'm not one way or the other. But it's got to be low cost and reliable. But we're going to go through all those options, and as we get the input, we're going to follow up with another public meeting and say, okay, here's what we're evaluating, here's what our options are, here's kind of where we're heading. But we're not going to eliminate an option as we go through it. It's just going to be compared against all the other options that are out there. So if an option is study a natural gas plant in Lafayette, we're going to study that cost, we're going to study the feasibility of it. We're going to compare that to purchase power or joint ownership of a solar facility. We're going to compare those. And it's going to be on the same comparison. So we'll know if we, as a city, elect to take one option over the other, we know what the relative costs are going to be. We know what our bill is going to go up or down or whatever it's going to be as a result of it. That's what my goal is. That's what I want to show. I want to be fair to all options, including renewables, but then compare them against the same basis. And so we know if we choose to take a higher cost option because it's renewables, then we choose to do that. I will follow that directive and go all the way down that road and do it. But I want to make sure that all that process is incorporated in these public meetings and in presentations to the council.
Okay, well, I just see, that it's a conversation across the country to start looking at transitioning off of fossil fuels onto renewables. And I understand we're being an extraction state here, that we're probably going to lag behind a lot of the other states. I mean,
environmental regulations as well. We did our last IRP in 2016. There was a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, environmental related. And a lot of it got halted after the election, right? After the presidential election. That could all come back. I mean, it's all part of it. And so we have to, the problem with environmental rules, Congress won't act on it. And so if Congress would act on it, it'd be a law. It'd be whatever it is. But we go 4 years at a time with each administration. So we're having to make a 30-year decision on a 4-year administration. That's really tough to do sometimes because they change. I mean, you got extreme this way, and everything's all over the place. But after the election in 2016, the environmental rules just kind of got put on the shelf and got put on hold. So the options that we studied to retire the coal plant based on environmental regulations kind of went away. It no longer applied. But this time, we're going to evaluate the economics of it. We're also going to take a look at what environmental rules are either in the works or coming down to see what the cost impact could be on that. Again, this may not, that coal plant is in compliance, right? It's fully compliant with every rule and regulation out there. If there's such a thing as clean coal, we burn it. That may not make sense to a lot of people, but we have the controls in place that limit the emissions. I mean, we fall well within our permits. But any given time, those rules could change, and we have to be responsive to those rules. And so we're going to take a look at that. It's always going to be an evaluation of ours to look at retiring that plant. Now, whether we act on that or not, that's another story, because replacing it is a really big, expensive ordeal. It really is. I mean, that's about half of our resources. And to replace that resource with the equivalent, gas or something else, more traditional, it's expensive. To replace it with renewables, it's a lot more expensive because of the capacity requirements and all that. But that's a MISO discussion. We can get into that another time. But we evaluate it. But again, I think my responsibility to all 67,000 customers is going to be lowest cost and most reliable.
IRP that, when do you intend to submit that? And what, the governing board is the Public Service Commission?
No. Right now, our governing board is LPUA, and a year from now, it's going to be the City Council. So whenever we finish the process, we'll submit it to whoever the governing body, LPUA or City Council, depending on when the calendar happens, right? So whenever we're finished. I anticipate this is probably going to take a year, so it's probably going to be close to the transition, whether it's LPUA or City Council. It very may well be the City Council by the time we finish everything and tidy all the report up. We may submit that to the City Council for, I guess, acknowledgement and approval. With that, I'd like to follow that up, with some actionable items. If the report says we need to evaluate, purchase power agreement, well, let's go out and let's solicit bids. And if it says build a plant, let's talk about that. But hopefully by the time we get to that point, we've had the public input, and you'll know where we are. You'll know where our thoughts are. You'll know what our options are going to kind of play out and look like. The report really is just going to be grammatical and formatting. It won't be much to the report, but hopefully we'll have enough interaction with the public that we'll know where we are. And that whenever we go to City Council or LPUA, it won't be a surprise to anybody. It's going to be well known what we're, and we're not going to necessarily endorse or propose an option. We're just going to say, here's what it is. We need to take action. And here's our options.
As a private citizen, if we wanted to contribute to the renewable movement by putting solar on our homes, that sort of thing, how does LUS, or how can LUS help influence the decision of Louisiana Public Service Commission to not eliminate the net metering?
Right. We're not under the jurisdiction of LPSC. We typically stay out of their business unless it affects. Yeah. Well, here's, right now, LUS's net metering rate is, if you qualify, which there are certain limits on your solar facility, you get a 1-for-1 credit, right? Full credit. What Public Service Commission has done is they've grandfathered everybody in, the other utilities, and moving forward, they only credit for that fuel amount. So, you're not getting as much back. You're probably getting half credit compared to what you were before. We're not ready to move in that direction yet. We were considering it a couple of years ago, and that created a stir. So we rolled it back. We have about 275 customers right now that have a net metering agreement out of 67,000. So it's a very small percentage. And what we saw is right now there's still some federal credits, but the state at one time, I guess we had money in the state at one time, we were getting tax credits for the solar facility. Well, when the state ran out of money, they eliminated those tax credits, and we've seen the request for interconnections just drop off. So there was a benefit there for the customer getting some tax credits, and that's gone away. And so we're not seeing near the enthusiasm that we saw before for net metering. But as a way to encourage it, what I want to evaluate in IRP, either in it or as a supplement to it, is doing some type of local solar facility that the utility would operate, right? I don't know if it's feasible money-wise. I don't know yet. We've gotten some indicative pricing. We've gotten some options out there. We have some ideas. But to me, if you don't want to put something on your roof or in your backyard or whatever, you could still participate in a solar facility, but you're not having to mess with all the maintenance of it. You're just paying money for it. So I want to explore those options. We've taken some steps down that road, and nothing's really panned out. We were actually talking to Independence, Missouri about theirs, and they kind of fell flat. They've had some issues in Independence about theirs. We typically will talk to Public Power because they face the same issues we do. But we've talked to Independence, and they've had some issues on their system, and so we've kind of taken a step back and say, okay, maybe that model wasn't the best way to do it. But I think ultimately, if we can make arrangements where we could own and operate a solar facility either in or near Lafayette and have people participate in it, then that's a win-win for everybody. We can kind of control the operation and maintenance of it, and then the customer gets the benefit of participating and funding a solar facility. So that's some things that we're looking at. I want to take a look at all those options as we march down that road.
And then one last question. I'll let other people ask. We went through the whole next gen deal just a couple of months ago. How much of has it gone away, or has the foundation been laid, or what?
I have no idea. That whole thing, it was not an LUS project, and so our role in it was really data gathering. There was some public records requests, that type of thing. That was really it. We stayed out of it because it wasn't really. We were the centerpiece, but it wasn't us. I don't know what was evaluated. I don't know where the proposals came from. So I really have no comment regarding where it stands today or in the future.
For what it's worth, it wasn't the council thing either. So, as far as we know, there's nothing going on.
Right.
That's the key. As far as we know.
As far as you know.
Nothing now. So.
Thank you.
Good. Mike, I think that's my fault.
Well, first I would want to say that LUS is really a great asset to the city of Lafayette. So when I ask questions or give criticisms, it's not that I think that it isn't one of the best things we have in Lafayette. A lot of my questions really probably will come up when you have the public involved in the IRP. But one of the things that I saw, I was in a group that was called the Lafayette Electrical Discussion Group. It started back around 2012, and we've been investigating electrical power, and particularly municipal electrical systems in cities about our size, all over the United States. And one of the things that we saw is that most of them have a citizens advisory board. And one I remember is in New Orleans, which has 10 members. In other cities, different numbers, and they have different levels of authority. Lake Worth, Florida, which I'm familiar with because I lived there for a few years, their board was set up by their city council and they took specific local groups like the Chamber of Commerce, the Sierra Club, just all the groups that they could think of that are well-established groups in the city who would have an interest, and allowed them to appoint a member to this committee with the approval of the government. So if somebody picked somebody who was really controversial, they probably would have been approved. What this did is it brought citizens with a lot of expertise from the community who had an interest into really getting involved in reviewing the things that were happening with the electrical utility. And that wasn't just a good thing for the citizens. It was really a good thing for the municipal electric company because they were having to do some really hard things at the time. They had some of the highest priced electricity in Florida because of a really bad decision that had been made a long time ago that had nothing to do with them. But they'd invested in a nuclear power plant that was just going crazy. I would like to see a citizens advisory panel set up online, something like that here in Lafayette. And I think it would be good for both the citizens and for LUS to have this.
Looking for a response?
Yeah.
My governing body is the LPUA, and until they change that, that's kind of my stance. They're accountable to the citizens of Lafayette, and so until all that changes, I don't have any comment on it. So.
Can I
Yeah, go ahead.
comment on that? Well, I feel like, I think that's a great idea. We do have the LPUA, and hopefully the city council, the 5-member council will become kind of the governing body as well. But I think meetings like this give people that are really interested and knowledgeable the opportunity to come and speak, and then through the governing body, we bring that back to LUS. And so there is that vessel that we can use at this point as far as the meetings, to be able to bring that information back. So I'm not saying that that's not a good idea, maybe have an advisory board of some sort for certain things, but I'm not sure if maybe that's necessary to do at this point in terms of if we begin these types of meetings. Now, again, it's not something we'll look at down the road, maybe, but I feel like this is an opportunity. They are being very transparent of what they're hoping to do and trying to do. They're giving you an opportunity, the community, to give your input. So to me, that's kind of a similar advisory opportunity for you to give them your input. So I will pass that along or maybe another board if you're so inclined to be interested in that. So.
I thought of a question. I don't know if I can slip back in. It seems like LUS is one of, that UL is one of LUS's biggest customers. And when I see that solar array that went up out there in their field behind the, behind the, you know where it is. And, it seems to me like a missed opportunity that you guys got to make a serious effort to get involved with UL on pushing the envelope on what are good ideas for communities, on having workable, teamwork kind of approaches to production of power. Otherwise, there's a possibility they might just do it themselves.
Well, my door's always open for any of those conversations.
No, you initiate.
Well, I will say this. Do you know how that solar facility became a thing? NRG was penalized by the Environmental Protection Agency or something similar for whatever, some emissions, punishments or whatever it is. And they had to find a recipient for money, a grant, to build a solar facility. They approached LSU, and LSU's like, "No, we got other stuff going on." They approached UL, and UL said, "Yeah, we got land. Let's do it." So NRG, who was recently approved for purchase by CLECO last week, by the way, NRG gave UL around $5 million to install that facility with a fund for operation and maintenance for X number of years. And so while I agree with you, there's a lot of partnerships that can be done. That was really out of our hands and UL benefited from a penalty, that was handed down by NRG. And what we're doing with UL, we have interconnections with them and other things. They've invited us to be a part of their R&D, get data from them and figure out what the load profiles look like, what the outputs could be. And so if we do move down the path of doing a local solar facility, you will know kind of what to expect every day from solar output in Lafayette. So it's a big benefit to us from an R&D perspective. But yeah, I mean, UL, great for them. I mean, it's a huge benefit to them, and they should welcome those types of endeavors. But it was a gift, I would say that.
Mike, did you have anything else?
No, that's all.
You were good? Okay. I had one more, Robert Garcia. Did you want to say anything about your? Yes. Okay, you're right.
I'm here as a member of the Bayou Electric Vehicle Group, and my main question is, can we get electric vehicle charging stations downtown? It's a best practice for urban environments. It's a tourist magnet, and we have a lot of tech companies in downtown. I've been working downtown on several businesses, properties downtown, and this goes hand in glove with the tech industry. So that's my main request tonight. I would say everything Mr. Walden said, did everyone that, including LUS, is awesome. But I would add to it that the Citizen Advisory Committee is much more than offering ideas. It's a formal structure that engages the citizens who are experts in many areas. I would say even better than just appointing a person who wants to be involved, that we should reach out to experts in various fields that are all relevant to the different industry segments that are revolved around power, and that it's a great way for LUS and the LPUA in particular as the governing body to get in-depth, independent analysis, research, best practices, including off the, out-of-the-box ideas that can be a great benefit in to the city of Lafayette in particular. And then my third question is, when you consider the street light replacements, would you take a look at new technology that integrates LED street lights with Wi-Fi, and consider a partnership with LUS Power and LUS Fiber to roll out this and have another step up on the rest of the cities around the country?
Right. Let me answer the third one. Yes. The streetlight fixture, they have a photocell, new type of photocell that has capabilities for connectivity and power. And so we're looking at all options. It won't be just with LUS Fiber. It could be a lot of things that are going on out there. But you're right, Wi-Fi, radios, things like that can be a benefit of changing out the fixture. We don't want to load up our streetlights too much because they have a certain weight limit, and we'll cause more issues than we solve. But yes, absolutely, there are capabilities out there. We're looking at all those things. Whenever we do install the streetlights, the first part of it's going to be the basic streetlight. We're going to look at adding on to things in future phases of a streetlight type program, and that'll include LUS Fiber and others.
Just when you're going through the process, I would encourage you to look for LED streetlight products that actually integrate the Wi-Fi and the
fixture itself.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
We looked at those. Some of those aren't utility rated, but
I don't know.
It's going to get there one day, I think. But right, the ones we looked at hadn't quite gotten there yet. To go back to your first question, electric vehicles, would that be an LUS sponsored project, or would that be some type of electric vehicle charging stations? Would that be something that, here's where I'm getting at. When we go through projects, depending on what the costs are and all that, we have to make sure it's beneficial to all. And I understand, I completely get the attractiveness, the tourism and all that, and kind of the incentivizing of buying an electric vehicle if they're there. But in order to do that, we need to have a policy developed. And I've been recently looking at Orlando. Orlando, I'm telling you, they're a public power, a big one, but they really have a good idea of how to do some of these things. What they did was they went out and put electric vehicle charging stations in strategic locations, right? What it does is it incentivizes people, if I can go grocery shopping and plug in my car, I'm going to get an electric vehicle because, you know, we've seen prices of electric vehicle, the overall cost of fuel and maintenance and everything else for the life of a car. It's there. It's starting to get there. And so we're about to flip-flop internal combustion engines with electric vehicles. But anyway, people aren't ready to take that step yet. But in Orlando, they put out all these public charging stations. They'll charge you whatever it is for it, you know, whatever the rate is. But what it does is it tells people, go get an electric vehicle and charge at your house, in addition to charging all these other locations. Orlando's making money at the house because there's no more electricity, which is paying for all those public chargers. In order to do something like that here, we'd have to change our rate structure and go through all that. So we're in the process of evaluating that now. For me to go out, I want to put a couple of pilots everywhere. I'm looking at that as well. Maybe something along the interstate, maybe something in strategic places in town. But I don't want to roll out a program without having a policy behind it.
There is a comprehensive set of best practices that have been identified by cities who have implemented EV charging systems that I would encourage you to look over. I don't know if I've emailed it to you yet, but I'll send it to you.
You may have, like last week, or I've been out of the office a lot lately.
Yes,
so.
The other point that I wanted to make is one of the purposes for locating in an urban environment is to bring the people into the urban environment where they then spend money while they're charging their vehicles. It's also a marketing tool because everyone who then owns an electric vehicle has this little icon that pops up and says, hey, you can charge it, and that brings awareness to the downtown area.
Right.
Additionally, obviously, we have a huge tech influx, employees, waiter, CGI, and more coming. And this really speaks to that and would reinforce efforts by LCG, the mayor, LEDA, Opportunity Machine, and many others to continue to drive that interest in downtown as a true hub for tech. We have reached out through our executive director and Councilmember Pat Lewis with Warren Abity, and there is some interest on his part in possibly, is that politically correct? Implementing the utilization of EV charging stations in the parking garage. And the reason why that's attractive, you can speak to Mr. Abity about that in more detail. But for me, being downtown for so long, I was one of the guys who kept beating the LED street light. I don't know if you know that, but I was the guy.
Thank you.
And what I'm trying to do is establish, or you speak about pilot projects and the importance of pilot projects in forming large rollouts and scalability. And I think that downtown is a perfect proving ground, and it's already proven to be a proving ground with the LED streetlight project that has become successful, and now is helping LUS make a decision to then ramp up LED streetlights around the city. So I would encourage LUS to consider to go back to downtown and look at downtown. Hey, if we're thinking about doing this somewhere else, let's do it downtown first and make that our testing ground and proving ground before we then seek to enlarge the scope of the project.
I will say this, the word, at a council meeting, the word downtown can be very magnetic in attracting certain responses. And so I'm very careful about singling out an area. You know, pilots are different, we can arrange that, but
that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, so like if we do, let's say we change out Buchanan street lights or something, I can't do just downtown streetlights as a part of the pilot. I got to pick out other areas in town, yeah, and just make sure that we have a good cross section. Townhall@lus.org. Send that suggestion. And so, that's right. You got them all. So yeah, I mean, you know, anything's on the table for discussion. I mean, I don't want to say no to anything. I want to say, you know, let's talk more about it. You know, that's really where I'm going with this, because I don't want to start putting out electric vehicle charging stations and people start questioning, well, you're wasting all this money, you know, because it's not quite there yet. But if we develop a policy and we start putting these things out, I think that's where it starts to build momentum, and we really turn And when I say policy, it's like, what do I charge? You know, where do I put them? You know, what do I charge a homeowner? That type of thing.
Correct. And again, I would go back to the point that I made earlier in that to develop a policy, you need a pilot program.
Right.
And that's what I'm speaking about.
Right.
And our organization does have some funding to contribute to the
oh, great.
pilot
Yeah, give me a call.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Forget everything I just said.
I also want to point out that this is an investment business model. This is not a give free electricity to everybody
Right.
business model. If you do a little research online, you'll find that very few electric vehicle owners, you know, expect free power everywhere they go. They're
Right.
happy when they get it,
Right.
but most individuals who own electric vehicles don't have a problem paying for the power.
Right.
So.
Good to know.
He's getting nervous. I mentioned I wanted to put one in District 7. He wants to be first. So
Just for the pilot, you can have it there. For just the pilot, it's not an official location.
You got the money, I don't, so you're going to probably win. Yeah.
The library is putting one in the new stockpile.
Right. I think Tesla, did Tesla do those? Is that?
I think I heard that, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes Tesla will, I don't know if Tesla did those, but I think Tesla, they'll scope out specific areas and they'll do it for free.
I would also point out that other than the public, other than that, I think it's an LUS location, we have no electric vehicle charging stations in the city of Lafayette other than maybe a few hotels and
Right.
some residential.
Right. Yeah, we actually have 2 electric vehicles in our fleet, believe it or not. Yeah. I don't know how much they're
He wanted this
consumed.
development. We need a charging station here. Get this development.
We just spent about $1 million on a LUS lift station. So,
You'll be getting reimbursed. You're getting reimbursed for some of that.
That's a whole other subject.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
We have one right here.
Hi, I know we're running out of time, so I'll keep it short here. First of all, I really appreciate this army of people. It really indicates the level of sincerity that you're bringing to this project. I have a couple of questions about the IRP, because you mentioned you did one in 2011 and one in 2016.
That's right.
Okay, so my question involves the horizon of this, because I mean, tech from 2009 for your LED lights versus now, it's finally feasible.
Right.
All this renewable energy, I'm very interested in this topic. It's becoming cheaper over time. So if your horizon is really short and you're looking at the bottom line of what we actually are paying for today, then the options are going to be fewer.
Right.
As opposed to if the horizon is longer and you're looking at what you can gain over time, there's more benefit. There's an environmental cost to the fossil fuels also, which Louisiana is paying really strongly right now. And so I know in the long term we need to consider this also. But if it turns out that in fact there's going to be another IRP in one or 2 more years, is there that much of a benefit? And if it turns out that there's a lot of effort that goes into creating something that the community has buy-in, but then because of the political winds change, all this other stuff is shelved and it's not going to happen anyway,
Right.
so we throw it away and then just start over again in 2023.
Right.
How does that actually maintain the momentum of these projects?
Right. The horizon is going to be 20 to 30 years. So we're not going to do a short-term viewpoint of anything. Regarding the constant changing, I said earlier, it's hard to make a 30-year decision on a 4-year administration. And I'm looking at it from a national level, federal level of environmental rules. Because those can and will change whenever, whatever the next election is. And so, but what you do is what I find is happening with renewables, and what I find is happening with coal, what I find is happening with gas, it's all becoming economic. The environmental rules, yes, they're still there and they have impact and all that, but it's really, renewables have come down so far from where they were 5 years ago that it's starting to get in line. Coal, even though the environmental regulations are off the books, natural gas has fallen so far down that maybe coal is not as economic as it used to be. So the decisions made today on generation resources are really around economics. And while we factor in environmental rules that can really force your hand, if I will say this, Clean Power Plan comes back, it's going to force our hand on Rotamaker. It will not be economic to continue it. But we're not there yet. It's kind of been put on the shelf. There's some replacements being discussed now. But all the rules as they are today don't have a whole lot of impact on what our decisions should be, because it's all economic. Because renewables have come down so far, gas has driven the market down so far, we're at a really low level. To make the decision, you know, we did one in 2011. It's the first time we did one, well, since the 90s, I'll be honest with you. 2016 was kind of a, let's take our breath. We've been in MISO for a couple of years. Let's see where we are. The 2019 and into 2020 IRP is because there's a lot that's changed in the last 2.5 years.
Do you expect it to need one with every administration?
No. No, I expect about every 5 years should be the target, because every 5 years you're seeing something new being brought into the industry. Now, when you make your decision and you just move forward. You'll always have opportunities to alter other things in the future. But when you invest in a generation project that's going to be maybe several $100 million, you can't 3 years from now say, oh man, I shouldn't have done it. No, you just got to put your big boy pants on and keep going. And that's what we're going to have to do, because we can't predict the future. Not even close. Anything that we predict is going to be wrong. And so what you do is you have enough information to make your best presentation available. And once you make that decision, you just have to roll with it. And so that's why I want to kind of include as much as we can in this study, because this is probably going to be the most important one we do for a while, because it's going to kind of set us up. But what if right? Because right now we're actually deficient in generation. We retired the bone-end units and we're buying on the market. What happens if we look at something and we can replace that generation and we're okay, for a while, but then 5 years from now something happens at Rotamaker and we're forced to shut it down or go in a different direction or do natural gas conversion, whatever that is. We'll have to do another one, because that's a big shift in how we operate our business. And so I wouldn't put a timetable on it. I'd say 5 years is a good idea to reevaluate it, but things do change, and when things do change, it sparks a new study. And it can be time consuming, it can be, but kind of once you understand what your goals should be, not an option, not specific ideas, but what your goal is to provide affordable, and high reliable, power, then it's easy to get to that point. You already have it established. I will say this, with the IRP process that we did in 2011, on our team now there's 2 of us who were part of that 2011. So what I anticipate out of this IRP is a lot of fresh ideas, new perspective, long-term viewpoints, but with maybe not quite as traditional thought process. I've been a veteran of LUS for over 17 years. I like to think of myself as looking forward a lot, but I sometimes do get stuck in my traditional thinking. But we have enough people on our team, within our organization, that's going to shape us in the right direction, I think. I have a lot of confidence in that. Did I even come close to answering your question?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Cheryl. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I watched Jim Bernhardt and staff present from my house to the council, and I remember someone mentioning that LUS paid almost, I think, $1 million a year. It was $900,000 a year. Was that amount being paid to MISO, or was that amount being paid from the IRP?
No, that's so. Being a part of MISO requires a 24-hour desk, risk analysis, transactions. It provides. It requires basically you're accounting for every megawatt, every minute of every day. If LUS were to staff ourselves, we'd have to double or triple our staff in our energy control center. We'd have to have natural gas procurement. We'd have to have operators. We'd have to have risk analysis. We'd have to have all these things incorporated. We're looking at $1.5 million, $2 million increase in our O&M budget for staffing and softwares and systems. Not to mention all the new licensing we would have to acquire and all that. What we do is we have a partnership with the Energy Authority out of Jacksonville, Florida. They represent municipal utilities across the country. They are our market participant in the MISO market. And so they handle the day-to-day. They handle risk analysis. They handle back office accounting. They handle those things. They don't make a decision without me or Karen or Hunter or anybody making the decision. So it's LUS making the decision. The Energy Authority actually transacts, makes it happen from a system perspective, interacting with MISO, getting all that data together. So that is basically a fee we pay, a partnership fee we pay to the Energy Authority for that participation in the MISO market. But it's annual. It is significant savings if we'd have to do it on our own compared to if we'd have to do it on our own, because you're looking at a whole set of skills that we would have to create and train and continue to train and try to replace, and it'd have to be 24/7. So you're looking at 3 shifts.
Are they the only authority that you can contract with, or are there others throughout the United States?
There are others who do similar services. We've had a relationship with them since 1999. They represent municipal utilities only. In fact, they were created by municipal utilities for this purpose, to pool your resources, monetary resources, to have a qualified depth of bench is what we call it. And so if I call somebody on the trading desk and I say, you know, what's going on with this transaction, they can tell me right now. If I call back 2 hours later, it's a different person answers the phone, they tell me the same exact answer, because they have depth, they have experience, and they have a pretty wide range of I guess it's a knowledge base that we don't grow in-house. We just don't. It's cheaper for us and more effective for us to do it this way, because I don't know how many partners the Energy Authority has, but it's in several dozen across the country in different markets, different areas, and they just have, that's what they do, that's their specialty. But there are other companies who do that.
And their price is comparable?
Oh yeah, we're getting a deal.
Oh.
Yeah, we're getting a deal.
I'll make it real quick. I do want to back up what Mike said earlier, that this city has really one class of LUS. And I'm actually giving up New Orleans from the Solar Trade Association, and I do want to also point out there are no places in town to charge my electric vehicle. So I'm not going to stop at Road Bridge. But in New Orleans, we've got a similar, it's a municipally located utility, but it's owned by a large corporation, and it operates very, very differently from the mandate is similar to what LUS is able to do. And you don't see really the same vibe or the same kind of activity or the same sense of ownership we have at LUS. So definitely the fact that it's like that. I also wanted to back up what was being said about partnering with UL, because I did talk about the chambers about the solar facility. And I was actually surprised to hear that there isn't more engagement between LUS and UL, because the laboratory is the best laboratory in the state, so probably within a good regional area for solar energy research. And they, he has plans for going beyond the laboratories like the government, and it would make so much sense if LUS is considering research department. I did a quick question about the IRP, because the IRP is, we talk a lot about cost. Is risk considered a factor, and is it monetized? Is it turned into a cost figure?
Risk as far as, what do you mean by risk?
Fuel cost risk.
We do sensitivity analysis. We'll have a range of fuel sensitivities. We'll do a high range, low range, and expected case, and we'll run the scenarios based on those sensitivities. And we talked, over the last probably 3 or 4 weeks, we've been talking about, okay, what is the right sensitivities to run, and we're going to run the full gamut. We're going to do really high gas costs, really low gas costs, and what we think the gas cost is going to be.
So with climate change is becoming more and more, volume is only getting louder on that being an issue to deal with, and the way I've seen that monetized in other IRPs is the cost of carbon, the anticipated cost of carbon. So as we talk about Rotamaker as an asset, certainly, does that potential in somewhat like the cost of carbon in the future, which must have a sensitivity range of something from 0 to something.
Right.
Does that factor in, or would that factor into the IRP?
In 2016, we factored it in. We'll do it again this time. So, yes.
It's a little bit off topic, but I'd first like to echo what several other members said about LUS being an asset to the city. And we had I guess a year-long process with LUS to build our sewer lift station on Community Extension. And I do want to compliment the staff, Brian Didry, Brad Eldridge, everybody was very professional, upfront. It was as positive an experience as could have been for something we had to build. But you know, when I heard in the paper that one of the reasons that a private company wanted to buy LUS was, you know, their employees are more efficient, it didn't sit well with me. I mean, at least with, you know, the 5 or 6 of your employees that I've worked with, they were very pleasant and professional. You know, they knew what they were doing. And so I'm just wondering, was LUS ever consulted at the beginning of that process to take our utility system private, or you know, were there ever any discussions with you all up front about, you know, why this might be a possibility, and you know, I don't know what we can do as a public to prevent that from happening again, at least from happening in secret without public.
Right. I can't answer a lot of your questions. Our role in this, as I said earlier, was really kind of gather the data and turn it over. That's really what we did. In that process, though, it's awkward, right? You kind of get a feel for what's going on. You're not sure, okay, where's this going to end up? And so what I instructed, once you know, kind of became public and we were able to open it up to our staff, what I instructed them to do is whenever you're engaged with these, you know, people who are evaluating you, be proud of the information you're giving them. You know, if it's, you know, if we're talking about how we operate or maintain a system and they're like, wow, really, you do that? Yeah, absolutely, we do it this way because that's what our customers expect of us. And so it went from an awkward kind of like, oh man, this is weird, to like, you know what, yes, this is how we do it. We're proud of what we do. As far as how do you prevent it in the past? I mean, honestly, you know, the reason it kind of came and went away was because of you. 100%. You know, my job is to follow whatever directives I'm given, right? And I'm going to provide data. I'm going to do all this. It's not my position to take a stand because I want what's best for the utility system. I want what's best for the customers of the utility system. I'm not going to get up there and say this we should or should not do something. But if you don't want it to happen, you made your voices very clear. And I think the council, the LPUA and the council took that action. And in November or whenever it was, they acted on it. You know, some of what I want to do in these town halls is give you information. If you have questions from us, whether it's tonight or the next one or next year, drop us a line, give us a call, swing by and say hi and ask us questions. Because if you're curious about something and you want to know more about LUS and you want to become more involved and educated in what we do, come get it. Come get the information, because at that point you can then refute anything or side with something that's coming down the path. And so if you're in favor of something, you'll now know why you're in favor of it. If you're against something, you'll now know why, with more detail, why you're against it. You know, our customers, you know, a lot of times we get all the good. Oh, y'all do a great job. And now we have our issues, and we look to correct those. But, you know, I want to turn this into, you do a good job because of these things that you're doing. I don't want you just to say, well, y'all are doing a good job and we don't know why. I want you to be a part of this. And so how do you prevent it from happening? I don't know. I mean, that's really, we're as non-political as we can be at times. I know it's difficult, but we belong to the customers. And so the customers are going to have to be the ones to say yes or no for anything that's going to come down the pipe. But all I ask of our employees is that we continue giving the customers the best that we can, because no matter what happens, it's their system, and we just work here. Our responsibility, we have certain goals that we set, but we just work here. It's your system.
And I think based on what you just said, that's you prevented it from happening too, because the customer service, if the customers are satisfied, they're happy with the service, you know, that's a plus for LUS. And so why would we want to change if that's working?
Right.
You know, I feel like your engagement and your professional services, your enthusiasm, your energy for the company, I mean, that again.
I think the charter
covers
that somewhere in that home rule charter says that LUS cannot be sold without a public vote.
Right.
Correct. I think it also
it's changed now.
To include
management, lease, and all that. So
that, I guess, is how.
So that protects it, but I mean, you know, as long as we know what the people want, we know how to vote.
Right.
And as long as they're happy with what you're doing, then it's a win-win for everyone. So that's to me, that's how it's prevented. So anyway. Before you're done, they have been so kind to be here.
I can take Andre's question. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to echo too. Kudos for the work that y'all do, and thank you for
in the town hall and that rose in the town hall tonight. I know we're in District 7, but I do want to ask another question about downtown and sewer capacity. And I know you'll have the South Gravity Sewer Improvement Project. That's a 5 to 7 year project. Is there anything that can be done in the interim to address the immediate need for capacity there?
We are looking at options. So what happens is, developers, if they have ideas about development, we'll give them kind of the guideline. Yes, no, here's what your maxims are here. And sewer is very location specific. So in one block, it could be perfect. Next block over, no, not available. But what we've seen is we've seen a lot of activity around downtown lately, at least talk of it. And we're engaged with several potential developments. And what we're doing is we're trying to solve their problem, but not just solve their problem, enter into a betterment agreement, expand the size of these sewer, lines and lift stations or whatever, so it will allow other development to happen. So not everybody's having to put in a new lift station. We can do a lift station here, solve a few problems, everybody pay their fair share of it, and then we can concentrate on other areas in and around downtown and really across our system, because the sewer's not isolated to downtown. I will say that. And here's one thing, people have called me, given me grief about our sewer system. We have a pretty good sewer system, I would say. We inspect it routinely. We're actually having to increase our inspections. The problems, the I&I, infiltration inflow problems, which means holes, cracks, whatever, in the system, which allows rainwater to get into it. Now we're flowing and treating rainwater, not just sewer. The problems aren't necessarily on the LUS lines. They're on the private service lines. And we don't go to that area. We don't fix those problems. And so we can do a lot. We can revamp our system and maximize our pumping capacity and do all these things. But we're always going to see these rain events have impact on our sewer system. What we're trying to do now is optimize the flow. If there's a way to upsize this one, redirect it there. We have pockets of these things all over the place, and so we're trying to figure those. But long term, the sewer project, the South Gravity project, we're looking at a lot of options, things that we're not typically used to. Maybe going in the road right away. That's something that we'll have to discuss internally with Public Works, as opposed to acquiring servitude along the way, because we're looking at 14,000 feet of pipe, a lot of properties. And so we're looking at being creative. Now, with that, there's always a pros and cons. Pro, I can get in maybe a little quicker. Con, I'm going to have a nightmare of maintenance in 20 years. It's going to cost more money to do it. And so that's kind of what we're evaluating now. So we're looking at any way to expedite the big project as much as we can, but we're also looking at other options to solve pockets around the area, and not just downtown, but all throughout our service territory.
Can I ask a follow-up, please?
Is it about downtown again?
No. I would just ask that when you consider the traditional solution of increasing capacity and inflow and more pipes and things of this nature, that you weigh those costs and the utilization of resources, the cost of right-of-ways or servitudes or whatever else is required in order to accomplish that typical process. Weigh that and compare it to on a financial basis, kind of like what this gentleman right here is saying, for incentivizing a reduction of utilization of capacity by the consumers, by the developers. And so when I say that, I can point out a few quick, easy things that LUS could do in that regard. You can incentivize the replacement of shower heads. You can incentivize the replacement of toilets. And for developers, you can incentivize the utilization of ultra-low flow sewage systems and water systems, specifically in showers and other kind of typical use areas. Right. So you don't have to spend the money necessarily on increasing capacity so much as you need to reduce the overall capacity.
Right.
And you can consider, as through the LPUA or the City Council, using these incentives that will help drive innovation, create new jobs, and protect the long-term maximum capacity of the system as it exists today.
Right. Yeah, we're actually doing both. Not necessarily the incentive package, but developers are coming to us with all these modern techniques and technologies because they want to make their development work within whatever constraints that we have. So they're doing that now.
I guess what I'm saying from a business perspective, right? Development costs money. If LUS would spend X amount of dollars, but a developer is willing to spend X amount of dollars, how can LUS through the LPUA incentivize the expenditure of money on a development standpoint, which then increases the asset's worth and increases the ability to restrict future need for growth of sewage capacity, and at the same time drives the economy, helps us innovate, does these other things that are really, really good, and you can focus on other hot topics which you have a plate full of.
Yeah, just a few.
So it saves time,
Right.
it saves money, it saves resources.
I understand. And that could be,
Give that email again, because that's.
townhall@lus.org. No, actually, he has my own. He has mine. Yeah.
I already sent it.
Yeah, I got. Yeah, I've had a busy email.
No, that's it. No, it's good. Good stuff. Yeah. All right. We're gonna let them go home. I thank y'all so much for coming. I think.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you all for